shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite a ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining the podcast this week. It is a pretty decent week for movie news so far. But yeah, this is the Movie Pit Podcast where we talk about all of the big breaking movie news items of the week. We also talk about the trailers that came out this week, and we do have two that we're going to talk about. And usually this is the part where I say all the movies that are coming out in theaters this weekend, but obviously that's not the case because, you know, COVID. But we're going to talk about some movie news. We got quite a few movie news items that came out this week, some big ones. Like I mentioned, we've got two trailers we're going to talk about. But before we get to all that, we're going to talk about the movie news items that came out after the podcast came out last week. And there are also quite a few of those. So first one we're going to talk about is actually an update to a movie news item that came out a couple of weeks ago. Jonathan Majors, the star of the HBO series Lovecraft Country, is in talks to star in the Stephen Bristol directed and Spike Lee produced Netflix movie Gordon Hemingway and the Realm of Cthulhu. Majors is in negotiations to play the title character of Gordon Hemingway, which would be the second outing for him and Lee, as Majors did play a supporting role in Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, which would be a reunion also for Lee and Bristol because Lee produced Bristol's Netflix movie See You Yesterday. So it's a reunion all the way around if Majors does indeed sign on to the movie. The movie is based off an original screenplay by Hank Woon, and the rewrites are being done right now by Woon, Bristol, and Frederica Bailey, who co-wrote See You Yesterday with Bristol. So again, reunions all the way around. The movie itself is set in East Africa in 1928 and centers on Hemingway, a roguish black American gunslinger who teams up with an elite warrior princess of Ethiopia to rescue the country's kidnapped regent from an ancient evil. By the way, Gordon Hemingway is not based on a character by H.P. Lovecraft, despite the character of Cthulhu being in the title. So just want to put that out there. But this is pretty big for Jonathan Majors. I think Majors actually signed on to another movie this week. I did not put that down in my outline, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I think he has signed on for another movie this week too. So obviously Lovecraft Country being a big stepping stone for him into the business. Moving on, Netflix has won a hotly contested auction for The Bluff. Sorry, not The Buff. The Bluff. There's an L in there. The pitch that was written for a starring vehicle for Zoe Saldana, aka Gamora, from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Frank E. Flowers will direct and co-write the script with Joe Ballerini. The drama is set in the Cayman Islands in the 1800s, and Saldana will play a character named Ursel, a Caribbean woman whose secret past is revealed when her island is invaded by vicious buccaneers. The intention is to blend visceral action and historical fiction to create a real action movie as the heroine fights against the atrocities committed by the pirates. There will be other leads in the movie. They're actually currently looking for those for actors to fill out those characters, one of them being a second woman who is part of Saldana's character's revenge, and the lead pirate, aka the villain of the movie. Another big part of this is that the Russo brothers will be producing the movie through their AGBO banner. Flowers and Saldana did work together on a movie in 2004 called Haven, which I have no recollection of. Flowers is also writing an untitled LeBron James biopic and a movie about Bob Marley. So he's very, very busy man. Ballerini, the writer, is known for Netflix's The Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting, which you can go check out right now if you want to. The next movie news item is Christian Bale is set to reunite with writer-director Scott Cooper in the adaptation of Louis Baudillard's novel, The Pale Blue Eyes. The thriller revolves around the attempt to solve a series of murders that took place in 1830 at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Bale will play a veteran detective who investigates the murders, helped by a detail-oriented young cadet who will later become the world's famous author, Edgar Allan Poe. That's right. I actually don't know if that's really if that was his career or not, because apparently I like Edgar Allan Poe as a writer. I just never looked at his background, but I guess Bale will also produce the movie with Cooper, and the plan is to shoot the movie this fall. This will be Bale and Cooper's third movie together, the other two being Out of the Furnace, which wasn't that bad. I think execution wise it lacked a little bit, and then Hostiles, which I remember watching, but it was one of the late show. It was like the last show of the day, and I was already tired that day, so I probably had to go back and rewatch it, because while I do remember certain parts of the movie, there are certain parts of the movie that I do not remember at all whatsoever. So there is that. Nothing against those movies. Again, just I don't know. Anyway, Cooper did release a statement, which I won't read, but he did say he's been working on this for a long time. He's working on this for over a decade, apparently, from a statement, and is said to be a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, especially since he grew up in Boston, like Poe, and wants to make something outside his comfort zone. He doesn't usually do detective movies. He usually does a lot of dramas, base dramas, sometimes crime dramas, obviously Out of the Furnace and Hostiles, both two very different movies in themselves. Hostiles is based in the West. It's like not necessarily a Western, but it's set around that time. Now The Furnace is, I believe, set in the present, but it's set kind of in a rural area, so it's kind of one of those, it's set in the prison, but you don't really know it's set in the prison because no one's using a cell phone or anything like that. It's just one of those kind of timeless movies, I should say. But this is interesting. It sounds interesting. I think the more interesting aspect of it is the fact that one of the characters is going to be Edgar Allan Poe, of all people. But, all right, I'm good for it. Millennium Films has hired a new writer for their long in development Red Sonja movie, and I mean long in development. The writer, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, and I apologize for this. Tasha Huo, I don't know if that's how you say it. It's Huo. I apologize. But she's actually the showrunner and executive producer on the upcoming Tomb Raider animated series that it's going to be on Netflix. She also wrote the Witcher Blood Origin prequel series for The Witcher, obviously. That's also going to be on Netflix. No word on if Red Sonja is going to be on Netflix. She just happens to work on two Netflix shows. But Red Sonja does also have a director in Joey Soloway. He hasn't really done a lot of features. He's mostly known for Prime Video's Transparent. Or is it Prime Video or Hulu? I can't remember which one it's on. But it's a TV series called Transparent, and that's where he's mostly done his directing. So he joined the project in 2019 after Bryan Singer dropped out, or maybe was forced out. It's kind of hard to tell nowadays. But he dropped out after the investigative report from The Atlanta that came out about him. Obviously, if you remember all that, that's kind of when he dropped out. So, like I mentioned, the project has been in the works for a long time. At one point, Robert Rodriguez was attached, and Rose McGowan was going to play Red Sonja. I think there was even a poster with Rose McGowan as Red Sonja, or at least some concept art using McGowan's face. But yeah, they've been working on this for a very long time, but it looks like it's finally going to happen. Hopefully, we don't know. Of course, if you want to watch a Red Sonja movie, you can watch the 1985 movie with Bridget Nielsen, who plays Red Sonja. Anyway, for those unaware about who Red Sonja, I keep throwing Red Sonja's name. Some of you may not even know who Red Sonja is. For those unaware, Red Sonja, she is from the world of Conan the Barbarian. And yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger does appear in that movie, the one with Bridget Nielsen, and premiered in the comics in 1973, quickly becoming a rather popular character in her own right, especially in 2013 when her comic was written by Gail Simone, who reimagined her backstory as a warrior seeking to avenge her family after being hunted down by marauders who killed them and left her for dead. So her story is kind of almost like Conan, but obviously it's told from the woman perspective because she's a woman. She's a very popular character, and they've been working on this thing for so long it's not even funny. So it'll be interesting to kind of finally see if this finally takes off. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Red Sonja. I'm not gonna get my hopes up because again, I've been ever since I've started looking at all the movie news and stuff, like paying close attention to it. Red Sonja has always been there as a movie that they're still working on. So, all right. So that's all the movie news items that came out after the podcast came out last week. Let's move on to this week's movie news items. Of course, we're going to start off, as always, with our trailer talk. We're going to quickly talk about this one. It's Netflix's superhero comedy Thunder Force. That's what the movie's called. It's called Thunder Force. It stars Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. The synopsis is as followed. Said, quote, "In a world terrorized by supervillains, one woman has developed the process of giving superpowers to regular people. But when the scientist Emily Stanton accidentally imbues her strange best friend with incredible abilities, the two women must become the first superhero team. It's now up to Thunder Force to battle the superpowered miscreants and save Chicago from the clutches of the King. So that's the synopsis. It looks like from the movie that Melissa McCarthy is the one who accidentally gets imbued with the superpower abilities, and Octavia Spencer is the one who it doesn't look like it. That's what they show. Octavia Spencer is the one that creates the whatever it is, that the shot that gives her those powers. Bobby Cannavale, who actually starred with Melissa McCarthy in the last Super Intelligence that's on HBO Max. He's playing the King. He's playing the villain. Pom Clemente was in the movie. It looks like she's playing one of the villains in the movie as well. Ben Falcone is directing and writing the movie. He's written and directed a lot of Melissa McCarthy movies like The Boss and Life of the Party. And did he do I think he might also done Super Intelligence. I didn't write down Super Intelligence on my thing, but I'm pretty sure he did that one as well. But Jason Bateman's also in the movie. He kind of shows up in the last bit of the trailer with like crab hands. So they make a joke about it. I couldn't really hear it because I was doing something else at the time, but I was only half paying attention at that point, but because I thought it was over. But yeah, he shows up in there as well. Melissa Leo is also in the movie, but I don't think we see her anywhere in the trailer, so it looks like they're probably saving her for something. It looks fine. It looks like a superhero comedy. I like Melissa McCarthy. You know, a lot of people don't like Melissa McCarthy for whatever reason. We've talked about that on the podcast before. But yeah, it looks fine. It looks like it may be making fun a little bit of the superhero genre too, which is always fun, especially if you're a fan of the superhero genre like I am, and don't mind, you know, people taking shots as long as they're funny. But yeah, I mean, this looks fine. It's coming out on Netflix. Netflix hasn't released a date for the movie yet, but I'm assuming with the trailer out now, they're probably going to save it for some time in the summer, probably maybe like April or May or whatever. But yeah, there's that. But the big trailer of the week, at least at the time of this recording, obviously, because stuff loves to come out, is Without Remorse. That is directed by Stefano Sollima, who directed Sicario Day of the Soldado, which is the sequel to Sicario. And that's the one with Michael B. Jordan, who plays Senior Chief John Kelly, who in the books, because this is based off Tom Clancy novels, the character's name John Clark, but for whatever reason they changed his name to John Kelly. I don't know why, but they did. So he plays an elite Navy SEAL who uncovers an international conspiracy while seeking justice for the murder of his pregnant wife, joining forces with fellow SEAL played by Jodie Turner-Smith. I believe she was the one in Queen and Slim. That's the movie I was thinking about. Queen and Slim. She was in that. She's been in other stuff too, but I think movie-wise, I think most people will probably remember her from Queen and Slim. So she was in that. So she plays a fellow SEAL. He was also joined by a shadowy CIA agent, as the synopsis likes to call him, played by Jamie Bell. Kelly's mission unwittingly exposes a covert plot that threatens to engulf the U.S. and Russia in an all-out war. Torn between personal honor and loyalty to his country, Kelly must fight his enemies without remorse, and if he hopes to avert disaster and reveal the powerful figures behind the conspiracy. Taylor Sheridan and Will Staples wrote the script. Taylor Sheridan, of course, the man who wrote the first Sicario movie. He also wrote Hell and High Water. The movie also co-stars Brett Gelman, Coleman Domingo, and Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce is shown in the trailer. It looks like he's playing the director of the CIA, probably, at least from the looks of it, or deputy director or whatever. But yeah, this looks pretty cool. I've been looking forward to this for a little bit. I remember when the movie was supposed to come out in theaters, and then they pushed it back because of COVID and everything, and they took it off the release schedule, and then I think it was Paramount, and then Paramount sold it to Prime Video because it was just easier. I guess it was just easier for them to release it through Prime Video because they were just, you know, obviously selling movies off because of COVID and stuff. But yeah, it's not going to be on Prime Video. It looks good. It does. It looks really, really cool. You know, it kind of looks like it doesn't look like they're working all out together. It looks like at some point the CIA is using John Kelly, because at one point Guy Pearce is like, well, you know, it basically he's like, well, he's going around killing people that deserve it. Why not just let him do it? So that kind of seems like that. But there's a really cool shot at the end of the trailer where Jordan's John Kelly sets a car on fire, and just enough for him to open the back door, go in, and he's harassing a guy and telling him to give him some answers. But it does look like he's going to get physical. There's at one point where he looks like he's beating up a group of people, at one point shirtless, for you ladies out there who want to see Michael B. Jordan shirtless. But this looks cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it looks really great, and I can't wait to see it. I know it has a release date, but for whatever reason, I did not put it down on my outline. I think it's coming out late April. I want to say late April, from what I can remember, because I know they released the release. I did put it down. It is April 30th. This is what happens when we don't pay attention. So yes, it is April 30th when it comes out. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I mean, really, you can watch it whenever you want, because you don't have to watch it on April 30th if you don't want to, but it is April 30th for everyone out there who wants to watch the movies right away. So yeah, there you go. I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I think it looks really, really cool in my opinion. And Michael B. Jordan leading a franchise. I mean, this could be potentially a franchise. I'm looking forward to it. I think he's well worth another franchise. Obviously, he has Creed, but him doing this, I think he fits the role. I haven't read anything. I haven't read his series of books, the John Clark books. I have read Tom Clancy. I just never read the John Clark stuff. But I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I think it looks really cool. Hopefully it lives up to the trailer. All right, that's trailer talk. At least at the time of this recording. Those trailers will be linked down below in the description/show notes area for all you guys to watch. Let us move on to the rest of the podcast with some quick-fire movie news items. And again, quick-fire movie news items is movie news items that I don't really have too much to say about, but I do think they're noteworthy for letting you guys know. All right, so the first quick-fire movie news item we're going to talk about is that Lena Dunham, which we don't usually talk about in the podcast because she usually kind of sticks to TV and stuff. Lena Dunham has wrapped her first feature film as writer-director in over 10 years. The movie is titled Sharp Stick, which she shot in secret in LA over the past months, all while following the COVID protocols. Plot details are currently under wraps, but it does star Kristen Forsyth from movies like Apostle, The Society, which is the Netflix series. She was also in the series Looking for Alaska, which I believe is on Hulu. Taylor Page for recently Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Scott Speedman, John Bernthal, and Dunham herself. Dunham did say this about the movie, which is probably the closest we'll get to details about the movie, saying, quote, "This story is incredibly personal to me and the continuation of my career-long mission to create a free dialogue around the complexities of female sexuality and to turn the idea of the likable," just put that in quotes, "likable female protagonist on its head," end quote. I never watched Girls, so I really don't know anything that Lena Dunham has done, because I didn't watch Girls. All I know was like the stuff around her where people don't like her because of, she did this interview like not that long, it was probably like last year, maybe 2 years ago, where she did this interview and like the way she answered certain questions just rubbed everybody the wrong way, and even rubbed me the wrong way, even though I'm not a big Lena Dunham fan. So yeah, I don't know. But for anyone who's a Lena Dunham fan and likes Girls, there you go. She has a new movie coming out that she shot in secret, and the cast is pretty decent. I mean, there's not a pretty decent cast for what it is. Moving on. The sequel to Searching has added Storm Reid from A Wrinkle in Time and The Invisible Man. I guess she's in the HBO series Euphoria. She plays Zendaya's little sister, I guess. I don't watch Euphoria, but from the outlets that I read about this news item that she was on the show. She has joined the cast. Details on the sequel are currently on the wraps, but reports do say that the movie will emulate the first film and unfold on various screens, computers, phones, and TV. Editors of the first movie, which starred John Cho, by the way, if you don't know what Searching is the movie with John Cho where he's looking for his missing daughter. That's told through different screens like computers and TVs and phones, like stuff like that. Very, very good. If you have not seen it, it's called Searching. Go watch it. He also, the director, Anish Sheng, I always mispronounce his last name, and I just learned how to say it too, like not that long ago, because I was reading an interview. Anish Chengati. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but he has a movie on Hulu called Run, which is also very good if you want to go check that out. So Searching and Run, two very good movies. Two very different movies, but very good movies. Anyway, editors of the first movie, Will Merrick and Nick Johnson, who edited the first movie, will write and direct the sequel to the movie. The original director, or the first movie's director, I should say, it's not a remake, it's a sequel, will come back to produce the movie. Production is expected to begin this spring. So there is that. Moving on, Gore Verbinski, the director of Pirates of the Caribbean, the first three movies, Rango, The Ring, Lone Ranger, Cure for Wellness, just to give you an idea what he's directed. I'm pretty sure that's everything he's directed. Is teaming up with Dennis Kelly, who created the original show Utopia, the one that came out. They redid the show Utopia here in America, but which is also on Amazon. But he's teaming up with Dennis Kelly, the original creator of that, on a feature adaptation of George R.R. Martin's 1979 novelette Sand Kings for Netflix. Verbinski actually broke the news himself while being interviewed by Collider. Collider actually is doing this very big interview with Gore Verbinski, and they're releasing little tidbits here and there of everything that he says. But they released this. The story, for those who have never read Sand Kings, follows a wealthy playboy named Simon Crest who collects dangerous and exotic animals. One day, he stumbles across a mysterious establishment called Woo and Shade, where he purchases a terrarium filled with 4 colonies of creatures called Sand Kings, which grow to fill out whatever environment they are kept in, and each colony consists of a large female called the Maw, and numerous insect-like mobiles that she controls through telepathy. In addition to finding food for their new Maw, the mobiles also construct a sandcastle around her to protect her from invading colonies. Simon begins to take bets over once the colonies start fighting each other with his friends and himself, and eventually, of course, they break free from that terrarium and start to take over Simon's house. The story actually won George R.R. Martin both a Hugo and Nebula Award, and originally Martin wanted this to become a TV series, but apparently it never took off. And the story is also set in the same fictional Thousand Worlds universe, which he created, which includes Night Flyers, which was turned into a miniseries on Sci-Fi, if you want to go check that out. On top of that, he also revealed that he's developing 2 new animated movies, one of which will be a musical animation movie, and will be a reunion with cinematographer Roger Deakins, who did the cinematography for Rango, which everyone loves, or everyone who's seen it loves. So there you go. I like Gore Verbinski. I'm kind of ashamed. Every time I think of Gore Verbinski, I always think of him not being able to do his BioShock movie, because he was going to do a BioShock rated R movie that was supposed to be very expensive, and the studio did not want to do it. So that's why he's never done a BioShock movie. And I know he probably still wants to do it. But if you're wondering why there's never been a BioShock movie, even though it kind of lends itself to being a movie, it's because Gore Verbinski wants to do it, and it's too expensive. No studio wants to touch it. So there you go. But this is I've never heard anything about Sand Kings. It sounds interesting. It does. But I have to see what it becomes. But and as for the animated movies, I mean, they're animated. He says he's still working on them, so it's gonna take a while before they actually get made. But if he's working on with Roger Deakins, it's gonna look beautiful, at the very least. All right, moving on to Netflix, because Netflix has picked up Teddy and the Guardians of the Night, a family adventure movie that's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's production company, $7 Productions, will be producing. I don't know if it sounds from the report that Dwayne Johnson, that's apparently a very hard name to say, will be producing the movie. He'll probably be just like a hands-off producer. He won't be like a hands-on producer. But they're producing the movie. Josh Stolberg and Bobby, I want to mispronounce his name, Floresheim. Together they wrote actually the original script that turned into Evan Almighty, but they have been hired to write the new script for the movie, which was originally written by Luke Passamore, who recently did Arch Enemy, that was released, the one with Joe Manganiello. Floresheim, he seems like he works as a script doctor from what I was able to gather online. So it looks like he's a script doctor for a lot of directors, while Stolberg has worked a lot on horror movies like the remake to Sorority Row, the Piranha 3D movies, Jigsaw, and the upcoming Spiral. So it's very and you're like, why are you putting these two guys together? It makes sense because the movie is based on illustrations from a Greek fantasy artist depicting a stuffed teddy bear protecting a child from a monstrous threat while he's sleeping. Or she's sleeping. So, and you look at the pictures and you look at the illustrations, because I did find the illustrations. That monster is horrifying to a little kid. But those illustrations are very, very cool. And $7 president of production, Hiram Garcia, initially discovered the illustrations in 2013 and optioned it to provide a foundation for the movie to be made. So it seems really, I mean, you look at the illustrations, like, yeah, I can probably see that as an animated movie. That looks really cool. So they're making it. It seems really cool. I wasn't really on board until I looked at the illustrations. I'm like, no, this is pretty cool. This would be pretty cool as a movie. So that's really cool. I just wanted to point that out because go find the illustrations. Very, very cool. Teddy and the Guardians of the Night, if you're wondering. Derek Kolstad, writer behind the John Wick movies, is teaming up with Amazon Studios to develop a live-action feature film based on the Japanese action horror manga Hellsing. The manga reimagines Dracula as a special agent bound to the Hellsing organization under the leadership of Entrika Hellsing, I think that's how you pronounce her name, a great-granddaughter of Abraham van Helsing, to aid them to do their mission to protect England from the world of vampires, ghouls, and other supernatural threats. The manga also focuses on Helsing's newest recruit, a female ex-police officer named Saris Victoria. Kolstad is the writer, like I mentioned, the writer behind the John Wick movies, and is said to be a huge fan of the manga and is very excited to work with Amazon Studios to develop the property. I've never heard of Hellsing. Sounds actually pretty cool, so I'm looking forward to this. Moving on to the final quick fire movie news item. The adaptation of the video game franchise Borderlands has added another actress in Ariana Greenblatt. She now joins Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Jamie Lee Curtis, with Eli Roth directing, and Craig Mazin, HBO's Chernobyl, he was the creator and writer of that series, is writing the script for the movie. Greenblatt will play Tiny Tina, an explosives expert who was introduced in the second game, whose history involves her and her parents being sold to the evil company Hyperion to be used as guinea pigs for some genetic experiments that resulted in her parents' death. Once freed and away from Hyperion's reach, she vows to get revenge against the man who sold her family to them in Fleshstick. Yes, his name is Fleshstick. The games are weird. All right, let's get over it. The video games see a group of vault hunters who are on the search for a secret vault that potentially holds alien technology that can change the course of the universe and the planet they are on, which is named Pandora. No, not that Pandora from Avatar, another Pandora. Blanchett will play legendary thief Lilith. Kevin Hart will play a soldier called Roland. All characters from the game, by the way. Black will voice the sarcastic robot Claptrap, and Curtis will play archaeologist Dr. Tanis, who in the games becomes more of a kind of a guide to the main characters. Greenblatt will play Greenblatt, in case you needed, like I mentioned, will be Tiny Tina, but in case you needed a reminder of who she is, she was young Gamora in Avengers Infinity War. She also has been in Love and Monsters. She was the little girl that Dylan O'Brien's character runs into. She was also in the Disney Plus series, the one and only Ivan, and will be seen in The Heights and Netflix's movie Awake, which will come out later this year. Borderlands slowly growing out its cast, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. All right, so let's move on to the big movie news items of the week. We have quite a few to get to, so let's get to them, shall we? So the first one is Universal Pictures has delayed once again the 9th Fast and the Furious movie, F9, and they've also delayed Minions: The Rise of Gru. First, Minions: The Rise of Gru, which will explore the origin of young Gru and meeting his minions, has been pushed back an entire year. It was originally supposed to come out on July. Well, it was supposed to come out originally last year, but it was supposed to come out this year on July 2nd. It will now come out on July 1st. 2022. As for F9, that's not that big of a delay. The studio did push the 9th installment back a month. The movie was originally, it was supposed to come out this year on May 28th, but will now come out on June 25th. The 9th movie will see the family being threatened by Dom's long-lost brother Jacob, played by
John C.
And the movie will see the return of Jordana Brewster and Sung Kang's, aka Han, somehow. I don't know how he's coming back, but he's coming back. Justin Lin will also return to direct the franchise after sitting out the last 2 movies. He started directing from Tokyo Drift all the way to Fast and the Furious 6. So yeah, a month and a year. So those are 2 very, very big different time jumps. Universal has been very adamant that they will not be releasing F9 on a streaming platform of any kind, or even premium VOD. They want the movie to come out in theaters. Apparently, they think that June's a better fit for the movie, but we'll see how that works out if they keep pushing it back, and they may have to push it back a full year once again. So we have to wait and see what they do with that. So on top of, Universal moving everything around, apparently John Krasinski revealed that A Quiet Place Part 2 will be released this year on Memorial Day. That kind of dropped in the middle of the night. Krasinski dropped it on his Twitter account. I think this is pretty cool that they're finally going to release it. Obviously, with the new deal Paramount has with Paramount Plus, the 45-day window, it kind of makes sense that Paramount's just going to start releasing movies in theaters, because Obviously now they have the ability to release movies on Paramount Plus 45 days afterwards. So I think this is pretty cool that they're finally going to release it. Quiet Place 2 was one of the first movies, obviously, probably arguably the first movie to get moved because of the pandemic. So I think finally that's going to come out. It seems kind of hopeful, but also at the same time, it's like, okay, obviously now it makes more sense because, again, of the Paramount Plus deal that they have. So this is pretty cool. We're finally probably going to get to see A Quiet Place Part 2, finally. Moving on, let's move on from Universal to Lionsgate, because apparently it's spreading. Lionsgate and Summit will soon be putting their movies on the Starz streaming service. Starz, which is owned by Lionsgate, will get exclusive first window for Lionsgate films when their current distribution agreement with Hulu expires at the end of the year. Summit Films movies will also come out on Starz when their contract with HBO, which ends at 2022, will start putting their movies on Starz. This means that if Lionsgate and Summit wanted to, they can release their new John Wick movie on there. They can release a bunch of other stuff like Borderlands, which we talked about earlier. Last week we talked about the adaptation of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. They can put that up on there as well. Spiral, which is the next big Lionsgate new movie from the Saw franchise, comes out this year, maybe. We don't know at this point, but that's supposed to come out next year. They could release it on there if they wanted to. If they wanted to push that back another year, they can release the movie on Starz. Obviously, this is a little different from Disney and Warner Brothers and recently Paramount, who all be releasing their movies on their various streaming platforms because Lionsgate has deals with other studios, so they're gonna have to wait on that. But it is spreading, and in my jumbled response last week about how everyone's saying that movie theaters are dead and stuff like that, this is a little different. Obviously, Disney has Disney Plus, Warner Brothers has HBO Max, Paramount now has Paramount Plus, which will be releasing their movies 45 days after they're out in theaters. Warner Brothers has, same day release as their movies comes out in theaters and HBO Max, and Disney Plus will put their movies up on there, or they could put them up on the premium access service that they have. So yeah, I mean, it's the new wave of the future, I guess, especially at the times of the coronavirus. If again, like I tried to mention last week, if this was happening when there wasn't coronavirus, then I think I can get fully on board with the discussion of movie theaters are dead, but I just can't do that. But there you go. Lionsgate is joining in the fray with Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount on that end. Moving on. Jodie Comer from Killing Eve and the upcoming Free Guy movie is in early talks to reteam with director Ridley Scott on Apple's new original movie Kitebag, which is about Napoleon Bonaparte, which will be played by Joaquin Phoenix. I almost said Napoleon's going to be played by Napoleon. Napoleon will be played by Joaquin Phoenix. Comer and Scott worked together on The Last Duel, which there is no deal right now in place, but Scott is reportedly eyeing Comer for the role of Josephine. The eventual love and the first wife of Napoleon. So if you know your history, that's who she is. I'm not going to try to pronounce her first name. I'm done trying to pronounce last names I can't pronounce anymore on this podcast. But she's in there. Apparently Scott didn't know Comer from Killing Eve. I guess he just kind of found her through the audition process, but there you go. Kitebag will focus on Napoleon's humble origins to his ruthless rise to power and his famed military battles. And of course, we'll now see him fall in love with Josephine. Production is expected to start early next year as Scott plans to shoot his next film, House of Gucci, this fall with Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, and Jared Leto, just to name a few members of that cast, because that cast is massive. The movie will also be written by David Scarpa, who wrote Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World, which he, of course, did a couple years ago. So there you go. Really cool. I just started watching Killing Eve. I watched the first 2 episodes. I know I'm very late on that. I apologize, but Comer's very good in that. So I know she gets even better as the series goes on. So I'm looking forward to that. Moving on, a remake of the controversial 1984 slasher horror movie Silent Night, Deadly Night is happening. The original's movie producers will return to produce this one once again, which plans on releasing the movie in 2022. So we don't have to wait that long for the movie. The original, if you've never seen it, which is just batshit crazy if you never watched it. Follows a child who is traumatized after seeing his parents killed by a man dressed as Santa Claus. Years later, he dons the Santa suit himself and gets revenge on those who he thinks are naughty. And that's all I will say on that. The movie did get multiple sequels and a somewhat remake in 2012. The original, though, caused a stir to many because the movie has received cult classic status since then, was controversial due to its graphic violence and its advertising campaign because, back in the day, even a little bit now, but more back in the day, certain people like to protest movies because they found it inappropriate for certain reasons, and Silent Night, Deadly Night was being advertised as a Christmas movie. Despite, Christmas movies back then being, family fun movies. This was a horror movie that they were advertising as a Christmas movie. So there was that. But it made quite a lot of money at the box office. Obviously back then, even a little bit today, you say something is so bad and it's so controversial, people are going to want to go watch it. And that was the case for Silent Night, Deadly Night, especially back then, because that's back then is, when it all happened, because people wanted to see what the whole controversy was about. So the movie made quite a lot of money. It even opened up against Nightmare on Elm Street, which famously did not do well at the box office, but still became a cult classic in itself as well. So it ended up beating Nightmare on Elm Street because they opened theaters the same weekend, and we got the sequels. So if you've never seen Silent Night, Deadly Night, I would recommend you watch it because it is so out there. I mentioned it was batshit crazy, and it is. And the sequels get even more, like that. And as the sequels follow, they start becoming less about Christmas. I think the last one before the remake wasn't even on Christmas and involved like witches, from what I can remember. If you follow YouTube a lot, you go follow Dead Meat on YouTube, and he does like his Kill Count series, and he's done them on Silent Night, Deadly Night. He still recommends you watch the movie, and I recommend you do too. But if you need like a quick recap on what the movie is, you can just go watch that. But it's pretty crazy. So the fact they're making a remake is interesting. There's no word yet on what approach they're taking with the remake, but it should be interesting to see how they're gonna do that. So moving on, Paramount. Speaking of Paramount earlier, Paramount's Dungeons and Dragons movie has added 2 more names to its very growing, impressive cast. Sophie Lillis from the It movies, from Netflix, the Netflix series that she did. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, I'm Not Okay With This. She has joined the cast, as well as Hugh Grant. They have now joined Chris Pine, Justice Smith, Michelle Rodriguez, and last week's audition. I can't speak now. Reggie Jean Page from Netflix's Bridgerton. Grant will actually play the villain of the movie, called Forger Fletcher, while Lillis will play a character named Doric. Plot details are being kept under wraps at the moment, so we don't know anything about the movie, other than it is based off Dungeons and Dragons. I believe early reports said that it was a combination of Guardians of the Galaxy and Pirates of the Caribbean, so there is something to that effect. That sounds pretty interesting to me. Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, who directed and wrote the comedy Game Nights. They also directed the first new Spider-Man movie, Far From Home. Homecoming. Will write and direct the Dungeons and Dragons movie. So that's pretty cool. And currently it has a release date of May 27th, 2022. Who knows if they'll make that release date, but this is actually pretty cool. I'm looking forward to Dungeons and Dragons. You can't get any worse than the first movie that they did, because that first movie was hot garbage. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Speaking of Reggie Jean Page, sort of, have said his name in a little bit, in over a minute, but speaking of him, he has joined the Russo brothers spy thriller The Gray Man, which will be released through Netflix next year. The movie will see Ryan Gosling as the titled character, a freelance assassin named Court Gentry, who finds himself hunted across the globe by his former CIA partner Lloyd Hansen, played by Chris Evans. Details on who Page will play are unknown, but co-starring the movie will be Ana de Armas, Jessica Henwick, Julia Butters, from the little girl from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Werner Mara, who was Pablo Escobar on the Netflix series Narcos, Alfie Woodard, Billy Bob Thornton, and a veteran Indian actor who I will try to pronounce, but will butcher, Dahanush. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not pronouncing that right at all. But they will all be a part of the movie. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who have written a lot of Marvel movies. They've written all the Captain America movies. They wrote Thor: The Dark World, Avengers: Infinity Game, and Endgame. They also written Pain and Gain. They also wrote the Chronicles of Narnia movies. They recently did a polish of the Russo script, which itself is based on the 2009 book by Mark Greaney. I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be a pretty cool movie. I've not seen Bridgerton, so I don't know who he plays or anything like that, but he's starting to get a lot of movie roles. So it should be interesting to kind of see how fans flood to this. Of course, you got Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans playing assassins that are trying to kill each other. I mean, what's not to like about this movie, really? And it's directed by the Russo brothers, who also directed, Infinity War and Endgame, and I can't think of another movie that they did. I know that Winter Soldier and Civil War. I'm like, I can't think of the other movies they did, but I remember now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I've been looking forward to this since it was announced, and then since everybody has been starting to coming in, which is really, really cool. All right, moving on. Disney's live-action Pinocchio movie has added 3 big names to its cast. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Cynthia Erivo, and Keegan-Michael Key have joined the cast. On top of that, a young actor has been found who will be voicing Pinocchio. The movie will be directed by Robert Zemeckis and will be written by Chris Weitz. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's worked with Disney before. He actually wrote the live-action Cinderella movie. He also had a hand in writing Rogue One. I don't remember if he was one of the original writers or if he was the one that came in during all those reshoots they did, but he did have a hand in writing Rogue One. The movie will star Tom Hanks as Geppetto, and we'll see Levitt voicing Jiminy Cricket. Erivo will voice the Blue Fairy, aka the magical being that brings Pinocchio to life as a real boy, and Keegan-Michael Key will voice Honest John. I do not remember Honest John from the movie, so forgot to look up who was that. So who's voicing Pinocchio? That will be Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who was in the Disney Plus movie Flora and Ulysses. He was also in the Netflix series The Haunting of Bell Manor, where he played Miles. So if you need a face of the name. Also joining is Lorraine Bracco, aka Dr. Melfi from The Sopranos. She will be voicing a new character called Sophie the Seagull. And last month, Luke Evans joined the movie as the villain, the Coachman, who was, of course, the person who takes the children to the island and Pinocchio that turns them into donkeys. Again, nightmare fuel for all those kids who remember that. Again, I did not remember that. I actually had to go look up the scene. I was like, this is terrifying. Why would you put this in a kid's movie? But there you go. Production on the movie will begin this month, actually, in the UK, and will combine live action and heavy visual effects, and will premiere on Disney Plus in general, as a whole. So this is a straight to Disney Plus movie, but it's still pretty cool. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket is actually very perfect casting. I think that's actually really, really good. Cynthia Erivo as the Blue Fairy. From what I remember, the Blue Fairy doesn't have that big of a role in the original animated movie. I could be wrong. I haven't seen Pinocchio in a while, so probably let's go back. But I think doesn't she just come in like in the beginning to turn him into a real boy, and then she kind of just disappears? So I don't know if I don't know, maybe they're expanding the role or whatever. But and then I don't remember who Honest John was. I don't know if he was a new character or an old character they're making, but they're making a new character, so it should be interesting to see how this all turns out. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a pretty decent cast from the most part. And again, they're combining live action and animated movies, and it's perfect. Robert Zemeckis, obviously the man who was behind Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and of course a bunch of other movies as well. But this is pretty cool. I like this cast that they've been growing so far, so I'm excited to see what they do with all. To the last movie news item, at least for the week, at least at the time of this recording. So I'll see if anything breaks. I will put them up on the Twitter page and talk about it next week. Paramount is back in the Star Trek movie train. The studio hired Kalinda Vasquez to write a new Star Trek movie, which J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot banner will produce. Vasquez does have a history with Star Trek, as she has written on Star Trek Discovery. Her name is even a character from the original show back in the 60s. So obviously Star Trek is in her blood. No word yet on what approach Vasquez is going to take, but it is an original movie that she came up with that Paramount apparently bought as a blind deal, as they call it in Hollywood. She also has a very impressive TV series history run. On top of writing for Star Trek Discovery, she's also a co-executive producer on AMC's Fear the Walking Dead, and has written on TV shows like Marvel's Runaways, Once Upon a Time, Nikita, Prison Break, and Human Target. Those last shows aren't no longer on the air, but obviously she's written for those shows as well. She's currently also writing a Marvel's comic run about America Chavez, the first Latinx. I know that's a term that's getting thrown around lately that they don't want people to use it anymore, but America Chavez is the first Latinx LGBTQ Marvel superhero and is developing an adaptation of the sci-fi novel Road Marks for HBO with George R.R. Martin. So she's very busy, and she's not just someone new to come to the scene. She would also be the first woman, not just anyone, but also the first Hispanic woman to write a Star Trek movie by herself. So that's pretty cool. Now, this comes a little bit of a surprise, obviously, because Paramount is back in the Star Trek movie train, like I mentioned, because Paramount put a hold on writer-director Noah Hawley's Star Trek movie after Paramount got a new studio president last year. There was also that potential Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie that was going to happen, that probably wasn't going to happen, then there probably was going to happen, then it wasn't going to happen. So it was back and forth on that one. But this is kind of interesting that they're back in the Star Trek movie train, obviously, with the new Paramount Plus thing. Maybe they just think that a new Star Trek movie would actually be worth it. We don't know. No word if it will be a movie that will go to the movie theaters or if it will go to Paramount Plus. But this is pretty big that Paramount wants to go back into the Star Trek movie train because, like I mentioned, they put a stop to Noah Hawley's movie. Obviously, the older Star Trek movies with J.J. Abrams started off big, and then eventually they kind of, didn't make as much money as Paramount thought they were going to make. So they kind of put a halt to that. And then, again, there was the whole maybe Quentin Tarantino was going to do one, but that was kind of just more of a, kind of a hay fever dream that he was going to do one, considering, he's very adamant about 10 movies and he's done. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I probably one of the handful of people out there that really enjoy the Abrams Star Trek movies. I really love the first one. I think the first one's probably the best one. Into Darkness gets a lot of hate, and admittedly, it probably deserves some of it, but I still think it's kind of enjoyable. And then Star Trek Beyond, try to do something different. Everyone's always saying they want, things to be different, especially in franchises that are already established, but then they get something different and then they still hate it. So, but I did enjoy Beyond for what it was too. So, I'm looking forward to, what they do with Star Trek. Obviously Star Trek is one of those long running franchises that keeps going and can reinvent itself whenever it can. Obviously with Discovery and the animated show they also have. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Kalinda Vasquez, obviously, with the history of Star Trek Discovery, it looks like they're giving her, the ball and they're running with it. So hopefully this one gets made. We don't know how that's going to work. We don't even know why Paramount decided was like, you know what? Yeah, let's make Star Trek movies. So we'll see what happens, but, I'm looking forward to this. I am truly looking forward to seeing what she does, and what approach they take, because there's no word yet on if it will. They say it's an original movie, but maybe they're thinking it's an original idea. So there's no word on if it will be connected. And obviously with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot being attached, they don't know if it's going to be a continuation of Abrams' storyline or, his version of it, or if it's going to be something original. I know Quentin Tarantino, when he was maybe not going to do it, there was word that it was going to be like a standalone version, obviously, because Tarantino. But Noah Hawley's version, and there was like conflicting reports at first that he was going to continue it, and then there was a report that he was going to do his own. So, and I forgot to look up if that was the case, but I know there was conflicting reports that he was going to do his own, and then maybe it was going to be somewhat connected to the original movies. The reason that Abrams didn't do another Star Trek movie is because the idea they had it didn't come to fruition. Abrams originally wanted to do like a time. Go back into the time travel, or I don't know if it's time travel, but time related movie, because they were going to bring back. The idea was to bring back Chris Hemsworth, who of course played Chris Pine's James Kirk's father in the first movie for that opening, and they were going to mess around with that. But apparently the idea they just couldn't get it to work, or couldn't get anyone to sign on, or something to that effect. And they moved on, obviously, with Noah Hawley's version. So it should be interesting to kind of see how that works out. Again, I keep saying that, but I am very interested. I'm very intrigued to see what they do, because, like I mentioned, Star Trek is one of those long-running franchises that you can do anything with it, really. Whether or not fans like it is obviously up in the air, but fans are really digging Discovery. I know some fans were very mixed on Picard that came out, and again, fans were very mixed on the Abrams movies. But let's hope when this comes out, if this comes out, when it comes out, hopefully, that Paramount can get the Star Trek movie train back on track. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, there you go. All right. That is all of the movie news that I have for you guys this week. I was a little out of it this week, guys. There's some stuff going on. But I didn't want to not do the podcast. So I'm pretty sure maybe you guys, I don't know if you guys can hear it through the mic or anything like that. But I didn't want to leave you guys without a podcast this week. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. Wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it be on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, or on Spotify, I very much appreciate it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can go leave those comments down below on what you thought about the podcast this week, or what certain movie news items you want to hang about and talk about. I'm always being on there. What else? You can also like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, be sure to also leave a rating and review. Those are very help out the podcast a lot from what I hear. So I appreciate that. And if you're listening to this on Stitcher, on Spotify, very much thank you for that, especially on Spotify, because we're pretty new on Spotify. So I appreciate that very, very much. And yeah, go check out everything else down below. The WordPress account, I put a new post up on there. I've been doing reviews on the Instagram page, so I kind of just took all those reviews that I've done and put them on there. I do plan on doing more reviews on just separate from what I'm putting up on Instagram, so I'll have those up for you guys as well. So it's still kind of dormant. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with the WordPress account, because I kind of just shifted over to the Instagram page. Speaking of Instagram, there's a podcast Instagram. Like there is also a Instagram or a Twitter for the podcast as well. Got my words mixed up. Like I mentioned, a lot going on. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I'm just going to stop because I'm rambling. I can feel it. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys have a fun, safe, good weekend. It's March already, guys. It's March. Can you believe it? It's March. I can't believe it. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hopefully I will see you guys next week. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. Enjoy your weekend. Be good people. Be safe. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!